Hello, and welcome to an overview of how to navigate Brightspace from the student perspective. I'm Tatiana Osmond. I'm the instructional technologist at Washington County Community College, and I'll be taking you through this seminar today. What I'll be covering is Brightspace is an LMS, so what does that mean? We'll be taking a look at navbar, notifications, settings, and the Pulse app. We'll talk about grades and where to find them, assignments, how to submit them, and what students need to know about file types, quizzes and how to check them, as well as how to submit them, and how to post to a discussion forum. And lastly, we'll take a quick look at two of the resources that they have on Brightspace that are kind of neat, and that is class progress and rewards. So first up, Brightspace is an LMS. So what does that mean? In a nutshell, it just means that it's a learning management system. And what learning management systems are designed to do is to operate and function as a repository for virtual classes. A website is normally what's known as a CMS, a content management system. And it's a lot more robust than an LMS is, in the sense that you can do a lot more with a content management system. Now, Brightspace is a very robust learning management system, but it's good to understand that its main function is to provide a repository where you can place grades in individual courses, how you can have discussion forums that are tied to student enrollment inside a class. So in that sense, it's really robust as a learning management system, but as a content management system, it's not, because it's limited by the fact that its main function is to act as a repository for courses. So it's not really the place where you would be setting up dashboards all over the place and putting data reports and things like that. It just does not function in that way. Okay, now we're going to look at navbar, notifications, settings, and the Pulse app, and where we can find these. I'm just going to show you a few slides, and then what I'll do is I'll switch over to the live view inside Brightspace from the student perspective. So this first image is just showing you the Washington County Community College homepage, and within the homepage, when you first bring it up, you'll have up in the upper right-hand corner what looks like a keypad icon. When you click on this, this will list all of the courses that are active that you can go into. Beside that's an envelope icon, and that's for checking mail. These little chat boxes, that's for any subscriptions you might have, which would be for discussion forums. And the bell icon is for any alerts that come in. So when your grades pop up, it'll have a little red dot beside it to show you that there's an alert or notification waiting for you. Next, beside that is the icon for the student name. In this case, it's WW, because my student that I created is Washington County Community College LL test user, first name and last name. Normally, you would just have a name like Jane Smith, and you would have JS as the icon label. And beside that is like a gear wheel, and that's for any sort of options you might have inside Brightspace. Faculty mainly use this for importing course documents between courses. For students, there's an option to work with video notes. So if students are using video notes, they can capture some of their notes. On the blue bar, and this is what's known as the nav bar, this is the nav bar only for the home page. We can see we have announcements, if there was any announcements, and a calendar, and then there's a help drop-down menu. When you click on the drop-down menu, it'll allow you to go to tutorials or to some documentation, the Brightspace community, and it's accessible at any time on this page. And then a little bit lower down, we can see that there's a list for my courses where you have some thumbnails with the images for each course. I just want to point out that they're listed by semester. So the active semester is usually the one that comes up. In this case, because I just created a sandbox course to do my demonstration, my active semester is my active sandbox semester. But for students, it would be sort of the fall or the spring enrollment or the summer enrollment for the school year that they were in. So when you click on the student's name, you'll also have a drop-down that comes up, and this is where you can find, for the student, where they can make changes to their profile, for their notifications and how they have their account set up. And I'll show you how that looks in a few minutes here. If you actually click on one of the courses, what you'll do is you'll come to the course homepage, and as you can see in the upper right hand corner, those icons go with you wherever you are in the course. So you don't have to worry about that disappearing on you. You can always click and move between courses. You can see notifications and get email or make any changes to your account settings. But the nav bar does change. And in this case, it's now coming to the course nav bar, which has a home page, a content page, assignments, communications, grades, and resources. And a little later, I'm going to show you what's underneath each one of those. I also want to point out that the nav bar that we have at Washington County Community College is sort of this light blue, but the nav bar for each college will be the color that's associated with each college. And I think it's, basically by the college colors. And up here, I just want to point out that there's a house icon and, of course, your school logo. You can press either one of those buttons at any time, and that will take you back to the college homepage if you wanted to get back there. And then lastly, then the bottom, I was just sort of showing that each homepage can have different widgets on it. Widgets are these little boxes. This update box is a widget, the calendar box is a widget, and the announcements box is a widget. At Washington County Community College, we allow the faculty to make their own home page. So you won't necessarily see the exact same widgets on every page when they come up. Myself, I just use announcements. That's the only thing I have on my home page, but I've seen other instructors who have course content that's listed on one side, updates or calendars. So there's one with introduction to your faculty member. I just want to point out that they will not always be the same, and that students should be aware of that. But this is always the same, which is your nav bar. Okay, and I just took a couple screenshots of my Pulse app from me as a teacher, how you can navigate inside Pulse to look at Brightspace. So to clarify, the Pulse app is a mobile app that can allow students and faculty members to access every single one of their courses sort of in a mobile setting. And it's really good. I actually like it a lot. When you first bring it up, then this one on the left-hand side, it's showing you that when you click on a course, it actually takes you to the content page. And the content page just lists out, for this particular course, I had my modules listed out by week. So you can just click on what week you're working on and continue to work on your course. If I click on the course homepage button, it'll take me to this one, which is the third one to the right. And as you can see, there's my announcements page. And in the upper left-hand corner, there's 3 horizontal bars. If you click on that, that's what brings up your menu, which will allow you to navigate to any one of the pages inside the course. And let's just go back to that first image. If you click on the notifications, which is in the bottom right, what it does is it brings up a page, like a calendar page, that shows you that things are due. So in this case, it's showing me that on May 11th through 17th, that week, the 12th and the 13th, I clearly have work that's due because there's a big bump there that's showing me that I have a final that's going to be due on the 12th. I have a student success plan final that's due and another student success plan final that's due. And that's because I taught 2 student success plan, two FYE courses. And that's what it'll do is it'll pull all that information from all of your courses, not just one course. So this is a nice little tool for each student because as long as the faculty member puts the information inside their calendar, then it will appear here for them. And when I say that, I mean they have to put a due date in. If there's no due date, then it's not going to register the fact that something is due on a specific day. All right, so now what we're going to do next is we're going to actually go inside the Brightspace environment. Okay, here we are. We're at the home page for the college system. And in my case, it's the Washington County Community College homepage. As I said, up in the left-hand corner, you'll have your home icon. You can hit that anytime to go back to this particular page. You can also hit the logo to be able to come here. Sort of in the middle, you can see the little dot comes up and says select a course. When you click the keypad icon, it'll list all your active courses. And then to the right, you'll see some push buttons or push pins. If you click on a push pin, what that does is it just makes sure that that item will always appear at the top of the list. So if you had a big long list of 12 or 14 or 18 courses, you might not necessarily always want to be scrolling through them. If there's 2 or 3 that you constantly go to, you push the pin, and that'll always place them at the top of the course. Next is instant message or email alerts. If anything comes in, you'll see a little red dot up here. Here is sort of a subscription. When you do subscriptions for discussion forums, you'll see the discussion forums listed up here. And then these are any updates or notifications that came in, especially grades and stuff like that. So as you can see, the student had a grade for their final quiz, which updated, which was with an F. Beside that is the student name. When you click on the student's name, you'll have an option to change the profile, the notifications, and the account settings. So if we click on profile, we can change the picture and we can add some personal information, including hobbies. I know at Washington County Community College, when we used e-learning, we had a script built that allowed us to take the students' student ID pictures and upload those into e-learning so that the student picture were always the ones that we had taken. I'm sure eventually we'll be able to have that ability here with Brightspace, but for now, students have the ability to just upload their own pictures. Under notifications, this is where the Brightspace app comes in. Brightspace has a mobile app which you can download onto your phone, and it allows you to access all your courses on there. And this is not just for students, it's for faculty as well. And when you download the app, then you can register your phone, and once you do that, you can start to set notifications. So what kind of stuff do you want to have come in as alert on your phone or even in your email? And there's quite a few that you can option in. Several are for the SMS, which is the mobile alert, and the other one is for your email. And students can control this. They have to come in here to select it to be able to control what kind of information they want to hear. I did have a student who had opted in for everything, and then she said, "How do I stop from getting everything?" And I said, "Just go into your notifications, and then you just select which stuff you want to get information on." And then under account settings, you have the ability to change the font if you want to. You can make it really large. I'll give you an example here. And you'll also have the ability to sort of change HTML and dialogue settings. And a lot of these options are for people who have screen readers and other assistive technology. And if you keep scrolling, you could change the language or your clock settings or how you want your calendar to display and your time zone. And then the gearbox I mentioned earlier is for video note captions. If students are using a video note, they could also provide a caption after they completed recording their video note. Then on our nav bar, we have announcements, calendars, and the help option. If I click on announcements, I don't have any announcements right now on the college homepage, so nothing's going to come up, but if there was, it would be listed here. If I go under calendar, you have the option to select one of your course calendars and see what information's underneath there. So let me go to my temporary SED course. This is the one I'm going to use as our example. And if I select on one of these little red buttons or little blue buttons, I can see that on this day at around 11:30, I'm going to have Module 12 due. And then actually, when you click on that calendar, it's going to take you straight into the course. And I just hit the house icon to go back to the college homepage, which you can do at any time. And then under the help option, you can access video tutorials, documentation, the Brightspace community, and you can also do a systems check. This is kind of a nice feature. You can click on systems check, and it'll let you know how your laptop or your computer if they have up-to-date Java, if your browser is good, so that you can optimize your experience while you're inside Brightspace. If I click on video tutorials, it just takes me to Brightspace's YouTube page or their channel, where they have tons of videos for instructors and for students, for administrators, anybody who needs to access information about Brightspace. That's the same with the documentation. When you click on documentation, you have the ability to decide, am I an administrator, an instructor, or a learner? If you're a learner, you can click that on, and it'll give you the most popular topics. Here's assignments, like how do I submit assignment? And it'll take you into a section to tell you to how to submit an assignment or watch a video. So Brightspace is very helpful in this regard. And lastly, there is the Brightspace community. And anyone can join the community, become a member. And you can also look at, they have long forum posts or where people just put problems out there. And you can find answers to lots of questions as well. So that's the nice thing about Brightspace. And then down here where it says My Courses, this is also where they have the thumbnail images of each course. And right now I'm on the spring semester. If I move back over to my sandbox semester, that's my current one. And I can look at some of my previous ones. And as you can see, when I go back to the fall semester, it's all grayed out and it says closed. And that's because the semester is no longer available and I can no longer access those courses. So let's go into a course. And the one I'm going to go into is the temporary SED course. And when I click on my course, as you can see, all the icons up at the very top, middle to far right, that goes with you no matter where you are inside Brightspace, as does your home icon and the logo. The only thing that really changes is the title of where you are. And in this case, it's the title of this course, Temporary SED 230 course. And here's my course nav bar. This will be consistent. The course nav bar stays the same for each course. And that's the home page, the content page, assignments page, communications, grades, and resources. Under the home page, we can click on course home, which will just take you exactly back to this page. And we can just click on announcements if all we want to do is just look at the announcements widget. If I click on the content page, there's no drop down because there's only one thing on the content page, which is the list of all the content. On the assignments page, I have options for assignments, discussions, and quizzes. Under the communications page, there's email, the virtual classroom, chat, and the class list. Under the grades page, there's grades, awards, and class progress. And then under resources, we have our WC library, your calendar for this course page, Brightspace Help, because once again, you can click into Brightspace Help at any time, and the e-portfolio. So if I go back to the course homepage, once again, let's just take a look at down here, which I talked about earlier, and that is that instructors can set up their widgets whichever way they want to, so you won't necessarily see an announcement and an update and a calendar on every single course. As I said, I only use announcements. So the whole thing will just be a big announcements page. Other instructors have announcements, and over here they might have meet your instructor or meet your faculty member widgets with an explanation of who they are. They could have content information on here. So there's several widgets that you can place inside here. So really the main thing to remember is that don't be alarmed if each one of these pages looks somewhat different. Remember, the home page is just really like when you walk into a room that there might be different pictures on the walls and stuff like that to greet people, but most of the bread and butter of the course is happening within these navbar functions. Okay, so next up is grades and where to find them. This is really quite easy. To find grades, you just go to the grades page. You click on the drop-down arrow and select grades, and the entire grade book will come up for the student. Depending on how the instructor set up their grade book, if they have a point system, then they will just see the accumulated points. This example is a weighted system, so they'll see their grade. In this case, you can see there's a grade of B. And the instructor also set it so that the student could see the weight achieved, which is right now there's 100% value of weight, and they have an 85.32 of that value. And as you can see that right here, they have a weighted value of 80% for the module completions, and they achieve 68.57 of that 80%, which is a B average. And then they start to list out the modules, and each one so far is listed as an A. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at what that looks like in the live environment. Okay, here we are back in the live environment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to grades, and I'm going to select grades. And here's my student's gradebook, and as we can see, the weighted achieved actually has slightly changed since I took that screenshot. They're at an 84.91 out of the 100% possible value, still sitting at a B. Their weighted average for their weight of 80 is now at the 70, so they're sitting at a B+. And as you can see, each one of their modules have been filled out. If they received an A, that's listed. If you have any feedback, that'll also be listed. I'm just going to scroll down here so we can take a look at module assignments. They have 10% of the overall weight value. In this case, it's 7.6, so they have a C average. And in this one, they received a D-, but there is also a rubrics that they could look at. So a message was left. It said, "Hello test, please see the rubric for my feedback." They can click on the rubric. And then when they're in here, they can read the feedback from each one of these ones. So they can see how they scored. And if I keep scrolling down, once again, there's a little bit more feedback listed. And then the last one, which is 7.31 of a possible 10% value, which is the C- average. So for the student, they can quickly see all the assignments they have completed and which ones they haven't. So they're still looking at Module 9, 10, 11, and 12, and their final assignment. They still need to complete assignment 7, 8, 9, all the way down to 12. But they've completed both their quizzes, and they've also completed their module discussion 6. Okay, now we're going to look at assignments and where to find them. We're going to cover assignments, quizzes, and discussions. So to find assignments, you just have to go to the assignments on the nav bar, click the drop-down arrow, and you'll see a list of assignments, discussions, and quizzes. You can also find assignments under the content page. As I mentioned earlier, it depends on where the instructor wants to put assignments. A lot of times we'll place things under content because logically we're just organizing everything that's in the course under the content page. So in this case, the course is listed as modules. When they want them to complete, say, Module 1, they might say, read this PowerPoint, watch this video, then take this quiz. Once you finish that, read this piece of information, and then do a discussion forum. So it's all contained within the same section, which is the content page. That being said, assignments will always also appear under the assignments page, but not every instructor is going to use the content page to organize their information because they might not be teaching an online course or want to have a full list of content information within, that aspect of their course. So they might just be using the assignments page. There's nothing wrong with this. I mean, content page or assignments page, it all depends on the nature of the course, but you can find them in both spaces. So let's take a look at some assignments here. We're back on the course homepage. To go to assignments, like I said, I can either go to content or go to assignments. In this case, I'm going to start out with content. This course was built so that students just needed to scroll through each one of the modules, and it will direct them to what they should read and what assignments they should take. Typically what will happen when you go to the content page, it'll take you back to the last module you were on. In this case, the student was on the final module. If I click on the final assignment, this one right here is a upload assignment. So when I can scroll down, I can see that here is where I can upload my assignment when I've completed it. I either just click on upload file. It'll direct me to It'll direct me to, my file section, so I can just select which file I want to upload on my computer. Or I can also just drag and drop. So you can just drag, if it's just on your desktop, you can just drag it over and drop it in within this square and it'll pop in there. I've already uploaded a couple files here to show you that you can upload many different types of files inside Brightspace, including Word docs, PDFs, text files, RTF files, pages, and HTML files. It's not a matter of what you can upload. The question really is, what can instructors then download themselves and access? And I'll use Pages as an example. Pages is a word formatting software that's used by Apple products, and it can't be used by any other computer system if it's not an Apple system. So if someone has a .pages document and they send it to you and you don't have an Apple computer or an iPhone, you're not going to be able to open up that file and be able to access it. And this comes up quite a bit because a lot of students do work on their phones, and so they'll do something on an iPhone, they'll send it off and it's a .pages file, and then instructors can't necessarily open those back up again. Another example can also be Google Docs. A lot of students from high school use Google Docs, and they'll have their documents saved in Google Docs. They'll send it off to the instructor, and because we use Office 365, we don't necessarily have a lot of Google Docs accounts, and they won't be able to open it unless, of course, they open up a Google Docs account themselves so that they can look at that file. So these are the things you just have to be aware of. That certain files, yes, they can be uploaded, but they might not necessarily be able to be downloaded and seen by the instructor. So let's go to another example here of a different type of assignment. Just want to look at Module 10, and we'll look at the Module 10 assignment. For this one, the instructor wants the students to look at 2 videos and then sort of write an explanation of, what their understanding is about the effects of trauma and learning and behavior. And in this case, it's just a text submission response. So the student doesn't have to write up a Word document and upload the file. All they have to do is write the response right here on the page and submit it. And I did this earlier. I just wrote my response twice. And as you can see, every time you write one and submit it, it catalogs it for the instructor. So those are 2 types of upload assignments. Now let's take a look at some quizzes. I'm going to go back into assignments, drop down, click on quizzes. And I have 2 quiz examples I can look at. The first one is Module 6 assignment, which is a quiz that's been completed. We can see that under attempts, that completed 1, attempt of 1. And then under the final quiz, we can see that one's not completed because there's 0 out of the 1 attempts. To find to take a look at my quiz results for each of these, I can just click on attempt under feedback, and it'll bring me into a page that allows me to see what my score is for that quiz, or will allow the student to see the score for their quiz. And depending on if the instructor allowed them to see the class statistics, they could also see the class average and the score distribution. I just enabled them for this particular example so you could see what that looks like. Of course, there was only one person who took the quiz, so right now the distribution is that one person. If you then want to look at the actual quiz itself, click on the hyperlink attempt 1, and it'll take you to your quiz submission, and you can go through each question and see which questions you got right, and you can also see what questions you got wrong. In this case, this is the one I got wrong. And then it'll also tell you your overall score. Now, seeing those results is also dependent on what the faculty has allowed the student to see. So they have the ability to set reviewing quiz reviews to them only seeing the questions they got right, or maybe only seeing the questions they got wrong, or in the example I just showed you, their ability to see every question, whether it was right or wrong. So that can change. And like I said, it's dependent on how the instructor set up that particular quiz and the review of that particular quiz. So it's not unusual to have slightly different ones. All right. And now under final quiz, this is the one that hasn't been submitted yet. If I was to click on submissions, like just to see if I had done well in it, it would tell me you have not attempted this quiz yet. So I know that this is one I have to take. If I click it on, it's going to take me to my summary of it. One thing to look out for right here, it says time allowed. In this particular quiz, there is a time limit, and the time limit is 8 minutes. And I'm only allowed one attempt on this quiz. So that's an indication that I should be prepared when I decide to take it. So if I click on Start Quiz, I can see I have 4 questions. First question up is, if 1 is greater than 2 and 2 is greater than 3, then 1/2 is greater than 2/3. Next is a fill in the blank. So complete the definition. Blank is the process of making a change, moving from one place to another. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'm just going to type in transition. Under this one, this is a multi-choose. So in Maine, special education services end with students. It says select all that applies. So there's more than one answer for this one. I'm just going to go with these 2 right here. And then my last one is sort of an ordering one. So what order should the KEP steps to creating an IEP plan be? I'm not really sure, but let's just throw in some potential answers here. And as I went along, it saved each one. The only one that's not quite saving, it says it's saving, but it hasn't, clicked off saved, is the transition one. It's just doing that because it's the fill in the blank one. It can't actually verify that it has the right answer because it has to go through a little procedure for that. But if I click submit and submit quiz, when I completely submitted, it'll come back and tell me exactly how I did. Oh, in this case, I got 4 out of 4. Which is pretty good. And I can review it immediately. But as I said earlier, it all depends on what the faculty member had set up. I might not be able to review it immediately if the due date isn't another 3 days. Maybe they won't let me review this quiz until the due date has passed. In this particular example, you can review the quiz immediately afterwards. And that's it. And I can also now see my score distribution as well. So that is how to review a quiz and then how to also take a quiz. So the last thing we're going to do under the assignments is we're going to look at discussions and then how you can post discussions. So in this case, I'm going to go to Module 6, Discussions. Why actions can be louder than words. A student made their post, and then there was replies to each one of those posts as they went along. If I wanted to reply to a post, I can click reply to thread. Type something in there and submit it. And as you can see, it's just follow along underneath all the other replies that are there. If I wanted to create a whole new post, I would start a new thread under discussion 6. I can put in my title. And place in my information and post it. And then as you can see, under Module 6, here is my reply, goes to the top because it's the most recent one that's been placed in there. And when other students read it, they can then reply to my post. So doing discussion posts is very similar to any place where you put, you put in feedback for people, same as Facebook or any of those other accounts. You just have to reply to the thread or reply to the post and then release it when you're done. You can also review it if you wanted to as well. Someone did ask a question about, can you look at, can you find just one person's post in particular? You can do that by going to the topic, in this case, topic Module 6 discussion. If you go to the grid view, it'll bring up a list of everybody who's replied here. And then you have this option, so show search options. If you click on that, right now it's by subject and post body. You could just put first name and I can type in, say, my name and search for it. And then when I scroll down, now I'll only see the replies that I made or the posts that I made. In this case, I only made 2 within this thread. So you can search for one person in particular, but only within the discussion itself. So you couldn't do it for all discussions, just the one discussion, but multiple threads within that discussion. And that is how you submit discussions. Okay, we're coming near the end here. We're down to awards and class progress, which are two neat tools that Brightspace offers. You can find these under the grades page. So when we go to the grades drop-down menu, we'll be able to see the options to look at awards and class progress. So to take a look at awards and class progress, we just have to go to the grades drop-down list. And the first one I'll look at is awards. Click on awards. You can give little certificates and badges inside Brightspace. They can have more formal ones, and of course, an instructor can set up badges or certificates for their own individual course. In this case, there's two badges that the student was given. One was a book review badge, which they got when they were in a course which was known as WCCC 888, which was another sandbox course we were using to play in, and we created a badge for it. And there's also one for completing Module 5 within this course. If I click that on, it just says completed Module 5 for this particular course on the date that it happened, and then who issued the actual badge. And so they can list out any one of these little badges and certificates as they go along. And you can look at available badges that are out there. For this course, there's only the one that's available. That's the Module 5 award. I should mention that not every instructor is going to use awards. These will only occur when someone is actually using awards within their course. But this one, this next item, which is class progress, can be seen by anybody in any course. This is a really neat little tool because it sort of encapsulates everything that's going on inside your course in one spot. So I can look at grades. If the objectives were filled out by the instructor, I could look at objectives. How much content I've completed, what I've put in for discussion posts, all my assignments, my quizzes, if I did checklists, surveys, how often I've accessed the course, or even my login history. So at the beginning, it just says, here's my grade summary, and these are each grade I took. And, if I scroll over them, it'll highlight, what I received for each one. And as I can see, I have a red one here and I have a yellow one. That sort of gives me a little bit of a warning of how I did with those particular grade, assignments. If I click the little side arrow, it'll also let me break out and take a look at exactly how I did on each one of those, and it'll also let me review the feedback. All this information, of course, can still be found under grades or under assignments, but it's nice that you can just find it all here under the progress button, the class progress. So each individual student, they're just going to see their own progress. It's a neat tool also for faculty because they have an option to click on class progress, and for them, what they see is all the students and how each student is doing. So in this case, when I look under content, I've actually visited 9 out of 25 actual sites within the content page. So I've completed 28% of all the items that are in there. So I visited 9, but I didn't complete 2 of them. Tells me how I did with those, my discussions, my replies, my assignments and how I've done with those, my quizzes, and of course how often I've visited the site. So I've visited 7 times. The last time I accessed it was today. So that's a fun little tool for students to be able to sort of just encapsulate how they did. And up here, if we notice, see how there's a little red dot above the notifications? That's letting me know that I have a notification. It's most likely my grade because I completed that final quiz. And if I click it on, sure enough, it says, hey, your final quiz has been updated and your grade is an A+. So like I said, an interesting tool if students want to use it, which is the class progress tool. It just kind of encapsulates everything in one spot. That has been a brief overview of navigating Brightspace from the student perspective. I hope it has been informative and helpful for everyone, and thank you for attending.